if you're in startup or if you're doing what we're talking about and that's launching new products, you're thinking, well, why do I need to know anything about the skeptic? Actually, skeptics can be extremely valuable for us. So let's envision this. You are making a presentation, you're making a pitch to a group of customers. They're all in the same room. And if you're watching for the specific clues, you start to realize that, sure enough, you've got various profiles represented in the room. And how am I going to know when the skeptic pops up? And how do I know that person? Well, one of the things they're going to do is going to throw you a curveball trying to make themselves look like the smartest man in the room. But if you listen carefully to their objection, whatever they say, that's never going to work because of this. Really quickly, write that down. There are two things we want to do with that. One, we want to take that thing that they've said and write it down and elevate it up in leadership, because what they've just done is identified a hole in our value proposition. He's probably right. And you need to figure out how to address that. And if it's early in the game, early in your launch, this is invaluable information that the marketing team and the leadership team need to get in front of and get on top of, lest it come back to bite your company in the butt and you die in the chasm. The other thing skeptics do is after you leave the room, they are going to undercut everything you said. They're going to insist upon being right. They're going to insist that whatever they just brought up is a critical factor that everybody needs to take into account, and they should not buy your product. So what do we do with this person? How do we neutralize them? Well, we need to do it very, very carefully. We don't want to make an enemy inside the group. And so one of the things we want to do is validate them. You say, validate them? Why would I ever do that? That's hurting my cause. He just pointed out a problem in my value proposition. Well, what he pointed out probably isn't fatal. But what you need to do right now in this moment is get him to calm down. So go ahead and validate him as the smartest person in the room. So here's what I typically do. When they say that will never work and here's why, here's the problem I have, then what you need to do is say, hey, could you say that again? I want to make sure and write it down, which I already told you, right? And then ask if somebody higher up than you, your boss, your manager, your vice president, somebody important, do you mind if I have them call you? I think what you just said is really, really important, and I wanted to see if we can address that. What did they want? They wanted to be the smartest person in the room, and what did you just do? You just elevated them and said, what you said is important, so important, I want somebody important to call you. That's how you neutralize them. Couple things about this. As it applies to the adoption curve, you've got the early majority. And the early majority is so important.
Success requires insights. Elite execution requires training. Go to www.exsalesconsulting.com/special offers.